You guys asked for more videos on breath support, so here you go. I'm Laura Campbell with Singing Tips with LJD Studios, where we talk about singing in ways you can actually understand. So what are we talking about when we're talking about breath support? We're talking about the way air moves from the space of the lungs up through the throat. So try an exercise for me first before we get into it. Just breathe in through your nose. Exhale, let it all out your mouth. Good. So what you might have felt is that all the air left your body very quickly. What you might also notice is that air doesn't have a lot of energy to it. It drops off really fast, right? And so it's probably fairly obvious why that's not going to sustain you super well for singing for a number of reasons, right? You're not going to be able to get through a longer phrase, but if you're going for a high, powerful note, there needs to be energy in that air, and there's not really any energy in that air. Okay, so when you breathed like that, right, there was no resistance to the exhale. It was just, you let it all out, right? I want you to think about a garden hose. And if you had water flowing out through a garden hose, but it wasn't powerful enough, you'd stick your thumb over the top of it, half of it, right? And the air would come shooting out. You'd apply a little bit of resistance, and that little bit of resistance would make the water move faster, right? Now, you would also make sure the faucet was cranked all the way up. We want to do the same thing with our air. We want to make sure the faucet's on, make sure the air is moving, but then apply just a little bit of resistance to it. And then that's going to create this more narrow funnel of airflow that gives you the energized air that you're going to need for singing high notes in particular, but just for singing in general. Right? You don't want this big gush of air because that's what it's going to sound like in your throat. Okay. The other thing to note is if you don't create the pressure system down here, if you don't apply a little bit of resistance here, and if you don't drive the air from down here, from lower in your body, from your big strong core muscles, your vocal cords will do it because you'll sort of like intuitively know in your ear, like, hey, I need to hold some air back in order for this to work. Your body will just do it. And so your vocal cords will try to hold the air back. And that's why you feel like you're straining. You don't want to use your vocal cords to apply the resistance. You want to use your core to apply the resistance. Okay, so how are we going to do that? I want you to imagine you've got a coffee straw and you're going to blow out really hard through that coffee straw, which means you got to purse your lips, teeny, teeny, tiny, and go. And what you'll likely feel is a lot of pressure in your core, right? Do that a few times and try to get really specific about like what you feel your core muscles doing. I'll tell you what I feel mine doing. Yours might be doing something similar. You might define it somewhat differently. The important thing is that you just get specific so that you can recreate the experience. So what I feel is the muscles just under my baby bump here, these muscles, I feel them really squeezing and kind of tensing this direction and sort of in. What I feel above that is all the muscles sort of pushing down and out against that. So it's like these muscles are the faucet, right? They're driving the airflow. And these muscles here are like your thumb, kind of putting a little bit of resistance over it, right? And then you get this more narrow, super energized stream of air. So practice it like that a few times. Eventually you can sing like that as well. You might, if you're lower, you might not need quite as much like oomph behind it, right? But you can do any of your favorite vocal exercises going, right? So if I do like a normal, I don't know, like 1-5-1, I feel that tension down here in the same manner, right? And if you're struggling with a high note, maybe you try it on that high note or a certain passage in your song so that you can really feel like, what does it take from these muscles down here to help me manage the airflow so that my vocal cords don't have to do it? Give it a try, you guys. You've got this. Happy singing.